Hey, everybody, welcome to the Jim Masters Show live. It's so good to see all your smiley faces. Hope everybody's doing well today from wherever you're watching all around the world. And it's so nice to have you here as we continue our epic series of monster shows, as we call them. This is the Jim Masters Show live entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series, where we're bringing back the lost art of conversation. And we do it in the style of a television series, like a TV talk show you remember from the past. Dick Cavett, Carson, some of the greats, sprinkled in with a modern twist and a modern vibe. I work in television and radio, stage and film professionally here in the United States. And we started the show about 2 years ago and some 660 episodes and counting. It's unbelievable. Thanks for all the comments coming in. Now, gang, if you would like to comment live while our guest is here and while I am here and you are here, and it's one big lovely family, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have an exclusive for you. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you can comment with each other in our JMS live chat room that we have. We can also see your comments. We'll sprinkle some of them on screen as well. Don't forget, you can also do super emoji, super chat, super stickers celebrating our show, super thanks and more while the show is live. You can do that in chat. You can also do it after the show. But it's a gift to those watching right now who want to chat, with amongst themselves, and they want to also sort of chat with us. You can do that right now when you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and there's no cost to subscribe. That's right. You just click that big red button that you see there that looks like this. There it is. You click that. You're subscribing to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. There's no cost. You're a part of our JMS Lovely family, or Lovely squad. When you subscribe, you'll be notified when you click that notification bell. There's a little bell icon there. Make sure you click it, because you'll be kept abreast of all of our episodes, special events, surprises, and so much more here on our epic daily series live, The Jim Masters Show. So good to see everybody. Thanks for all the great comments. And boy, do we have an amazing guest. I'm very excited. Again, you guys know, since I work in TV, I'm always excited when we have guests that come in from all walks of life: Broadway, Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, comedy, culinary arts, sports, inspiration, everything else. But when we have guests that come in from the world of television and celebrating television, I'm extra excited working in it. And we have David Van Deusen here, and he was the executive producer for the Dick Van Dyke Show celebration, a wonderful celebration of the 60th anniversary. That's right, the 60th anniversary. Hard to believe, 60 years, huh? Of the one and only iconic, one of the most beloved television series ever. The Dick Van Dyke Show, still in reruns all these years later, starring Dick Van Dyke, Mary Tyler Moore, Morey Amsterdam, Rosemary, Larry Mathews, and the entire cast. Of course, Carl Reiner, who played Alan Brady, Jerry Paris, who was Jerry, and just the epic cast and crew. Sheldon Leonard involved in this production, filmed at Desilu Studios. Of course, you know Desi Arnaz, Lucille Ball. It's just iconic. And Dick Van Dyke, one of my favorite people, of course. David has has had wonderful opportunities to chat with Dick, meet cast, crew, and just have an opportunity to really chat and celebrate this epic, iconic series. And again, this phenomenal documentary celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Dick Van Dyke Show, really epic, epically produced, epically done. And we are so excited to have the executive producer, the producer of this very iconic special, with us here on the show. And we're going to bring him in right now. It's so cool to have him here. He's all poised. You know what's really cool? He has this incredible set by him as well. And the set that he has, bring in the lights, as Carol Burnett would say, bump up the lights, and there they are. He's got this incredible set sort of behind him. Now, you're going to think it's green screen, because you're going to see the pillows and other things behind him. You can say, oh, that's a green screen to look like the Dick Van Dyke Show set, right? No, it's actually his home. David, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Jim. It's great to be here tonight and discuss my favorite show, and it sounds like yours too. So
I tell you, Dick Van Dyke Show, I never get tired of watching it, enjoying it, celebrating it. What do you think it is about the Dick Van Dyke Show, David, that still resonates with all of us, that still invites us, welcomes us, envelops us in a way that is tough sometimes to even put in words.
I think the genius of the show comes down to Carl Reiner as the creator of the show, and the fact that the situations that were portrayed were real life situations that 60 years later we still all can relate to, whether it's an argument between a husband and a wife, or something that happens with your kid at school, or an incident at your office, right? It really is reflective of us as human beings and our emotions, right? And we can all relate to that. And it's about a commentary on us as people and the reactions that we have. Really, we're not a lot of joke telling on the Dick Van Dyke Show. It was very situational. The jokes that would get told were told in the office in terms of Buddy and Sally and Rob, maybe creating jokes. Most of the other comedy was the situations, the reactions, the looks, the banter between the cast, between the crew members, right? And again, all things that we can relate to and still laugh about 60 years later. I get up in the morning and hop on the treadmill and throw an episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show on and have headphones on while I'm listening to it. And I'll be laughing out loud, and I'll go down for breakfast and my wife will say, "What were you laughing at?"
What were you laughing at?
I was watching the Van Dyke Show. I was on and even though you know what's coming, you still laugh for some reason, right? It still strikes a chord.
So what is it in terms of the type of humor that it is? What do you think it is about this style of humor? Like you say, it's not necessarily slapstick. It's not joke, 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 joke. It's so witty. It's so beautifully written that they sort of just sneak in that wit and wisdom in just about every line.
Yeah, I think that's Reiner's ability and genius to be able to write to the performers, right? They always kidded Dick that Rob Petrie was Dick Van Dyke. It was the same person when he went home, right? And Reiner had the knack to be able to write so well to the characters that the delivery by folks like Dick and Mary and Rosemary and Morey, right, were so natural, right? And they all contributed. They'd sit around at the start of the week and do a table read, and the remembrances of folks who were there would be that it was just a very collaborative experience for them all, right? Everybody could chime in, everybody could make a suggestion. The goal of everyone involved was to make the show be the best that it could be. And I think that collaborative spirit is what made the show and push the limits on things, even back then, right?
Yes, right.
But as you note, in a subtle way.
Absolutely right. For you, this opportunity to produce this iconic celebration of the 60th anniversary, which is still hard to even say, 60 years of the Dick Van Dyke Show. How did that come about for you, David?
Well, I published a newsletter about the show for 20 years called the Walnut Times.
That's right.
From 1995 to 2015. And I stopped it because I wanted to sort of go out on a high note in 2015 while many of the cast were still with us. And I think that I achieved that through my publication. But my passion and my fervor for the show certainly did not end. So as we approached the 60th anniversary, I thought there has to be something that marks this milestone. The show still endures. It still holds up some 60 years later. What can we do to celebrate the fact that, as you know, it's still on MeTV and Decades and various other streaming channels and Amazon Prime and so many other things. So I decided that I'd like to revisit the show, but sort of from a little bit of a unique perspective. But I wanted to get the remembrances and recollections of those that were there at the time or those that were impacted by the show. So I went back after cast members that were still with us. I also went to the children of the cast members, figuring that they would have some reminiscence of what it was like to go and sit in the audience and watch their mom or dad perform, right? And Then
Great idea.
a slice of cast guest stars that also are still with us today. And uh, every single one that I spoke to, um, almost without exception, said, I did a lot of work in my career, but the thing that I love having on my resume is that guest shot that I did on the Van Dyke Show. Right, I'm really proud that I have that on my resume, and
Oh, yeah.
there aren't a lot of people that have that, but I do. Right, um,
Yes.
and they also commented on the fact that on many sitcoms or shows, if they would make a guest appearance, they would tend to feel like an outsider, like they
Hmm.
weren't welcome, just because they weren't used to being there week after week,
Part of
right?
the ensemble,
Right.
regular ensemble, right.
But the warm welcome that they would receive on the Van Dyke Show was very different from the other sitcoms. And I think that was the tone that Carl set and the tone that Dick set, being his show, right? Was the objective was to make it as good as it could be and as funny as it could be. And it didn't matter who made the suggestion or who made the contribution, but the fact that we had it and it could get into the show and make the show better was the ultimate goal of that ensemble. And the you know the Van Dyke Show took advantage of the three camera technique that Desi Arnaz had sort of harnessed for I Love
That's right.
Lucy, right? Three
That's right.
film cameras.
Studio audience.
Sheldon Leonard, said, let's use that. Let's have a live audience. Dick loved to have the live audience to be able to play off of. And I think, Mary was a relative newcomer then, but Rosemary and Morey Amsterdam had done years and years of live performing in vaudeville and in nightclubs in Las Vegas. So that worked well for them too. And um, this was the first time that we sort of didn't start the show with "Hi, honey, I'm home," which is what Leave Her to Beaver did and other shows of the day. You saw the husband coming home from work. This was the first chance that we got some insights into what the dad did for a living. Right? He went to the office, and we just didn't hear him go to the office. We could see what he did and who he interacted with in terms of his boss and his producer and his coworkers. So I think that was also part of what makes it unique to the viewer and intriguing to the viewer. Sort of, we had two paths that we could take: the home life and the work life.
Exactly, which I think was terrific. Like you say, it was one of those first times where we got a chance to really see where the dad went and what his tasks were, and then a whole cast of characters that he worked with as well. Love that mug. Tell us about,
This
well,
mug.
both mugs are great, but the
Yeah.
particular one in your left hand, tell us about that one, Dave.
Yeah, so this mug portrays a drawing done by Dick Van Dyke himself of the cast from the 1960s. Dick, along with being a very talented actor, singer, dancer, performer, also does magic and loves to draw, is a great artist. And Dick would doodle while he was on the set, did this drawing of the cast. And then that drawing was ultimately used for many purposes, but among them, they would give gifts to the cast and crew around the holidays, and like a drawing like that would show up. So there are decks of playing cards with that drawing on it and a cast ashtray of that drawing. And Dick's artwork showed up a number of times on the show. There was a punching bag hanging in the office with a drawing of Mel Cooley on it that was done by Dick. There was also a piece of paper stuck to the dartboard of Mel, and that was done by Dick. And there was one particular episode where Dick came home and brought a large turtle home for Richie. And on the back of the turtle were Rob and Laura and Richie. And that was also painted on by Dick at the time. So a little bit of trivia there, but they made efforts to sneak that in wherever they could.
Just a super talent and such a phenomenally nice man, isn't he, Dick Van Dyke?
Indeed he is. He's just like you would expect him to be when you meet him. And I particularly appreciate the fact that Dick Van Dyke, David Van Deusen, we share the same initials.
That's correct.
And Reiner often referred to me as the other DVD, if you will. That was sort of a tip of the hat from Reiner to me about my involvement and my passion for keeping the show alive.
Which is really fantastic. And again, you've had some really wonderful opportunities to chat with him and meet him that go back a ways, huh?
That's right. We originally met in 1997 on the set of Diagnosis Murder.
Oh, that's
The
right.
shot you're showing there was on the set of the Dick Van Dyke Show Revisited in 2004, when they shot the 159th episode, as Reiner referred to it. Reiner wrote another episode and brought back the cast to revisit where everybody had gone in all those years.
Yeah.
And it was a great pleasure to be invited by Reiner to attend the taping and help out with some of the behind the scenes activities that took place there.
What was it like when you first met Dick Van Dyke? What was that sensation like for you? You must have been like,
it was wonderful. Like I said, we met him on the set of Diagnosis Murder.
yeah.
And we sort of went in and were standing in the wings while they were shooting a scene. And they said, Dick will come over and say hello when the scene is done. So we waited, and sure enough, someone said, David is here. So we turned and looked and came across and stuck his hand out, and he says, "Hello, I'm Dick Van Dyke." And I said, "Yes, I know."
Isn't it funny when they do that? It's just a sign of being a gentleman and everything. But I'm Dick Van Dyke, in case, and just, yes, I know. I've known ever since I was a child. And
yeah. So we had a very nice visit there on the set, and we took photos, and Dick signed some things, and it was one of my first trips to Los Angeles. So he said, "What else are you doing while you're here?" And I said, "Going to meet with some other people from the show. We hope to go to Disneyland for a visit." And he said, "Well, by all means, go to Disneyland as my guest." He said, "Disney and I have a little bit of a relationship. Mary Poppins, that thing I did."
Yeah, right.
So yes, we were graciously treated to a day at Disneyland, by virtue of Dick Van Dyke's generosity.
Here's another great photo we have too. We have video. We've got all kinds of cool things for everybody. If you're just joining us, David Van Deusen is here, executive producer of Kid Jubilee. We're talking about the 60th anniversary, celebrating the 60th anniversary of the iconic Dick Van Dyke Show. Look at this shot.
Yeah, that was the initial meeting there with giant walnut that I brought along to have a little fun on the set. And my newsletter was based upon the famous "It May Look Like a Walnut" episode of the show, right?
Where Mary comes out of the closet with the walnuts.
If you come in contact with those contaminated walnuts, you lose your sense of humor and your thumbs, as we did here. So yeah, Dick was a great sport and just played right into it. Gee, Jim, I look a little different there.
I was going to say, yeah. You have a tie on.
Somewhat 26 years ago.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And also the iconic Carl Reiner, who we just lost not that long ago. I remember when you remember the quote that Carl said. He said every morning he would get up and he would check the obituary page, and if he wasn't in it, he would have breakfast that day.
Right. And he and George Shapiro partnered to do an HBO special, right? That's right. If I'm not in the obituaries, I'll eat breakfast.
Right.
So
what was it like meeting and knowing Carl Reiner?
Yeah, Carl Reiner. I think this photo was taken. Carl treated me to lunch at a Japanese restaurant, one of his favorite restaurants out there. And we had a great meeting. Carl was the reason that my publication was a success. Right from the very start. He embraced it. He supported it. He used to, his secretary would contact me and say, "Isn't there another issue due? Carl's looking for it. Where is it?" Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, he graciously called me the other DVD. He invited me out to work on the reunion special. He would go very out of his way to do anything he could, and very nicely said at some point, that I maybe single-handedly kept the memory of the show alive. I don't know if that's particularly true, but I'll hang on to that. Right.
That's a good one. Absolutely.
And but again, Carl's support, Dick's support, and really um, all of the cast were extremely supportive. And, you know, I really treated these, found like I established friendships with these folks. When I would make a trip to LA, I'd stop by Carl's house, like this
Oh,
where
yeah.
this photo was taken.
Yeah.
I'd meet Dick for lunch or go by the house. I would visit with Rosemary at her home, and Annie Guilbert, you know, who was Millie.
Yes,
We
Millie.
always found time to get together at one of her breakfast haunts that she enjoyed in the Palisades, and everybody was just so appreciative of the fact that we're keeping the show alive, and the memory of those characters, right?
Mm.
A wonderful 5 years. You know, Dick says in the documentary, it was the best 5 years of his life, right?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely right, and
and
people still question, why did they end it? You know, it was still
right.
riding high, and, I guess I had heard mixed answers on that. Not everybody wanted it to end. Some did, some didn't. Is that what you got?
Yeah, so I think, you know, Carl originally, when he started, it said 5 years. Through the success of the show, Dick was receiving, you know, movie offers, and Mary was receiving other offers for films and Broadway. And Carl just sort of stuck to the fact that it was 5 years, and he didn't want the material to be old or get repeated. I think there was some sentiment that the show had been in black and white. It could move to color and give it a boost. But I think Carl just decided that he was going to stick to his original plan of those 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And you know, maybe the stories had run their course. I think they did an admirable job in finishing it up, and you know, Rob was going to have a show done about him in the final couple of episodes and things, and you know, so in the documentary, couple things I'd like to just make sure I mention here. There's some behind the scenes things that I think folks would find interesting, but the budget was pretty much on Dave, so it was a self-funded project.
Mm.
And my primary goal in doing it was to honor the show and really expose the show to new potential generations of fans and let those who love it enjoy it over again, right? During COVID and the pandemic, many young people actually did find the Dick
Discover.
Van Dyke Show
Yes.
and start watching it, right? So we have now, was it the third or fourth, or are we on to the fifth generation? I'm not quite sure, right?
Yes, that's
But
right.
but the other thing that gave me great self satisfaction was, if folks enjoy the documentary, and I hope they do, and I'd love to hear from folks, but consider making a donation to St. Jude Children's Hospital.
Oh, that's
And that's
beautiful.
the
Yes.
hospital, of course, that Danny Thomas
Danny
started.
Thomas. And
Danny was one of the founders of the show, owners of the show.
that's
And I
right.
thought, what a tremendous tip of the hat it would
Mm.
be to the cast and crew for fans to show their appreciation by supporting Danny's hospital and foundation. So I would ask folks to seriously consider that. I made no money on the film, and it never had any intention of making it. It was purely my passion for the show and a celebration of this tremendous show to try to share with others, and again keep it alive and let people still enjoy it, right? So,
And like you say, St. Jude's still being, overseen by Marlo Thomas,
right.
his lovely daughter, who is also the wife of Phil Donahue from the
Yeah.
Donahue talk show series, another talk show legend, huh?
And St. Jude is also doing tremendous work in helping some of the Ukrainian refugee children who
right.
have come to the country that have needed medical treatment. So that's, you know, another tip of the hat to them.
They are absolutely epic, and yeah, they really, really are. You got the couple of shots here we were showing, interspersing here in the conversation, the wonderful Rosemary. What was she like to have conversations with? Those must have been really something.
Yeah, she was a crackerjack. Let me tell you that.
Yes.
I had many opportunities to visit with her, you know, at her home, but we also went to public events together a few times, and just again, you know, very. She was sort of Sally Rogers in terms of being one of the guys, right?
Yes, very much so.
Really felt, and I think, and her family still feels that she made an impact as probably one of the first working women that we saw on television, right? And being
Yes.
treated like an equal with Buddy and Rob in the office. And one of the episodes talks about the fact that she's like one of the guys, right? Buddy makes her carry the typewriter, and can't even imagine that there's anything wrong with that, right? So the still you're showing now, this color slide, I want to acknowledge that comes from the color home movies of Rosemary and her family.
That is so terrific.
Rosemary's husband often would attend rehearsals and filmings of the show, and they had purchased an 8mm color home movie camera. And this is from the episode called The Twizzle, when they were in the bowling alley dancing.
Yes.
But they have the only known color footage from the show. And there's, several minutes, another shot here of Reiner and Morey and Mary Tyler Moore. Much of this footage was included in a documentary about Rosemarie's life a couple of years ago called Wait for Your Laugh.
Oh, yeah.
So folks should look that up, and we'll see more color footage there. But Rosemarie's daughter, Georgiana Rodriguez, graciously gave permission for me to use some screen captures of that color footage in my production. Again, I think
that's fantastic.
A reflection of the relationships that we've established through the years. And yeah, some of these folks, or some of these pictures, for fans of the show, you're loving them, right?
You're seeing the actual colors of the couch and
yes,
the cigarette, the ashtray there, the gold, and the leather chair, and all of it. Yeah.
So you look at that wall. There's a couple photos behind the couch there on the wall, and you see the lamp, the chess lamp on the table.
Yes.
You mentioned my decor here in my office. Well, if you look behind me, there's that chess lamp, and there are those photos on my wall. So every day I have a little bit of the Alan Brady Show writers' room here in my office.
And I was telling you and I were chatting before we went live. I always looked for that triangle pillow, which you have behind you, with the circle pillow on sort of like that back love seat that would be behind the dining room set. And then sometimes in certain episodes, if you look quickly, and maybe because you and I are in the industry, we look for these things, but real diehard fans of shows also know when there's subtle differences and changes, maybe from season to season or just from episode to episode, where the dining room set sometimes is off the kitchen. Sometimes it was in that little nook under the hanging light in front of the bay window in the living room, and other things were moved around. Sometimes the triangle and circle pillars were there. Sometimes they weren't. Things were moved around. It was pretty much uniform, but sometimes a few things were moved around, and that was always cool. But I always looked for that triangle and circle setup.
Yeah, you asked earlier about what was it about the show. One of the folks that participated in the documentary was Paul Reiser. Paul, I asked to be involved because he brought Carl Reiner back as Alan Brady back in 1995 on an episode of Mad About You.
Mad About You with Helen Hunt. Yes.
But Paul commented that the Petrie living room was a very inviting living room, right? I mean, certainly it was a set, right? But you as the audience felt like somehow you were welcomed into that room and were part of that room. And when they'd have a party and there would be singing and dancing and things, right? Somehow as an audience member, you sort of feel like you were part of that.
Yes.
And he commented that he felt that was a bit of the attraction or the endurance of the show, right?
Yes.
Folks felt warm and welcomed into that home in New Rochelle on Bonnie Meadow Road.
And the kitchen too was also very inviting too. I think the kitchen was just set up in a way that was, similar to what a lot of suburban homes of the time were like, where you'd have that dining room right off the living room leading into the kitchen with the, sort of the shutter opening that you can look into the kitchen
Yeah.
with the grill set up, and then the, those 60s style chairs and table leading off to the screen, deck in the backyard sort of set up towards the garage. It's just very similar to the home structures that were being created of the day too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for you, what was your background, your upbringing similar to that setup? I grew up in New York, not in New Rochelle, although we have friends in New Rochelle, Westchester County, but out east on Long Island, similar in terms of suburban sprawl, new streets, new neighborhoods, schools, parks, new construction, and that sort of suburban feel that is captured so beautifully in the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah,
Was that similar for you?
it was similar. Absolutely. I'm located near Albany, New York, but we were not in the city at all, right? We're certainly several miles outside of the city proper, in a more rural or suburban sort of environment, right? Where we would walk down to a bus stop and all get on the bus and ride together to school and that sort of thing, right? So,
Yeah.
I think, again, it was the encapsulation of a very specific time, right? We note in the documentary that Carl Reiner lived on Bonnie Meadow Road in New Rochelle, which was the same street address of the Petrys. Carl's actual street address was 48 Bonnie Meadow Road. The Petrys, there was a few different numbers, but most generally, it turns out 148 was their usual address that was communicated. And Carl made it 148 so that fans wouldn't go looking, trying to find the house, because 148 did not exist in real life. But back in 2017, the city of New Rochelle renamed Bonnie Meadow Road to Dick Van Dyke Show Way. So now there are 2 street signs.
That's right. I remember that.
Paying tribute to the show. So that was nice. To shoot a promo for my documentary, I actually know the individual that lives in Carl Reiner's former house.
Do you really?
And I went down and stood outside of Carl's house and shot a promo to promote my documentary. So that was a little bit of fun too, sort of revisiting the spot where perhaps it all began, where Carl traveled back and forth as he was doing the Sid Caesar show back in the day.
Oh, isn't that fantastic? I tell you, really, really amazing. And what's really, you and I were chatting again before we went live about how spry Dick Van Dyke still is in his 90s, and Norman Lear and Mel Brooks, these iconic figures in television and film and stage and so much more. And Dick just is somebody that I think, if he ever decides to fly up to another planet somewhere, this world as we know it will come to a stop. He's so iconic. He's so beloved. It's just for so many reasons, for so many people, and generations of people still discovering him, not just in the Dick Van Dyke Show, but like you say, Mary Poppins and so many other incredible things he's had an opportunity to be a part of. But just one of those iconic people that we've been blessed to have during our lifetime. And all of them, Carl Reiner, Morey Amsterdam, Rosemary, Mary Tyler Moore. I mean, just what a cast on top of it, huh?
Yes,
the casting.
The cast ensemble was certainly, there had been similar ensemble. Certainly I Love Lucy had the cast ensemble of Lucy and Desi and Fred and Ethel. But I think the uniqueness of that melding of talent for that cast ensemble is sort of, gold in terms of the show's endurance and treasured moments, right? The characters, I think, are so well defined. No one's surprised when Mel walks in and Buddy throws a ball joke at him, and you laugh, right?
Yes.
And the banter between Buddy and Sally, you feel like you know them, right?
And she really was pivotal in getting him, I think, to come out to California and to actually be a part of the series, right? She
that is
really
right.
rallied for Morey.
Rosemary was the first cast member secured after Dick. And she said, what are you doing for the other writer? And they said, well, we don't know. And she said, how about Morey Amsterdam, right? So
Yes.
they're like, Carl's like, oh, I hadn't thought of him. So she ran home and called him and said, they're going to call you about the Dick Van Dyke Show. And Morey said, what's that? And she said, a new show we're doing. Just get out of here, right?
Yeah, she actually said, didn't she say, what's a Dick Van Dyke?
Yeah, that's her famous line. Yeah, what's a Dick Van Dyke, right? So he tells the story of, he was outside somewhere in the city,
Yeah.
shoveling snow, and he said, anything to get out of the GD snow, I'll be out there tomorrow, right? And they went out, sold his house in New York and bought his home on Hillcrest Road in Beverly Hills, and that's where he was until he passed. So Morey was just I never met Morey. I spoke to him many times on the phone, but the phone would ring and I'd pick it up and I'd say, hello, David, it's Morey Amsterdam. I got a joke for you. And he would just call to tell you a joke because he enjoyed doing that, right?
Exactly.
He took great joy in writing a new joke and sort of starting it in the community of comedians where he lived, right? And to see how long it would take for his joke to go out and around the circle and for it to come back and have one of his friends tell him his joke, right?
Yes.
So
exactly.
Yeah,
and Sue was asking, how did they pick New Rochelle? That's where Carl Reiner was originally from.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So many of the stories and character names came from Carl's real life. That's how Carl would say, what did you do this weekend? Oh, my neighbor's kid got pecked on the head by a woodpecker. What are you talking about? Right.
Right.
And that would germinate and percolate and become the idea for an episode and the springboard from which they would go.
And of course, Carl Reiner being the father of Rob Reiner, who we know from so many incredible movies and epic productions, but also as Mike Stivic on All in the Family, which is another iconic production as well. But just really epic. We have some more material here. We actually have, which is really, really nice. And we appreciate this being sent our way. We have Carl Reiner sort of in about 30 seconds, kind of talking with and about you, huh?
Right.
That is really cool. Let's take a look at that, gang. We'll be back with our very special guest, David Van Deusen. He is the executive producer celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Dick Van Dyke Show, as we're celebrating that here on the Jim Masters Show tonight.
David Van Deusen, I am beholden to you for keeping the memory and the life of the Dick Van Dyke Show alive single-handedly. It is my favorite thing that I've done in my whole life, and I want it out there for as long as I'm here. And after I'm here, I'm 86, so I'm hoping it goes on until I'm 94, or even past that. Thank you for everything you've done to keep this show buzzing.
Now, when you hear that, when you heard it then, and now you hear it again with him no longer here, what happens? What runs through your veins?
I just think, and back to the times that I had the opportunity to sit and visit with Carl, and I'm very appreciative that I was afforded those opportunities, and that's something that no one can ever take away from you, right?
Right.
I was out in LA on the 50th anniversary of the Dick Van Dyke Show, October 3rd, 2011. There had been an event, that was on Monday. There had been an event on the Saturday to celebrate the 50th anniversary, which I attended and managed to get many guest stars invited to sort of celebrate the big event. But on that Monday, the 50th anniversary, I actually, visited with Carl at his house and have a photo of him and me together. And he signed it, October 3rd, 2011, the 50th anniversary. So it's just, again, a moment that no one can take away from you, right? I could say, hey, I was with Carl Reiner on the 50th anniversary of the show.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, that really is absolutely iconic, and great memories, and great memories you're sharing here with all of us. A lot of folks commenting. Keep the comments coming, folks. If you would like to comment in our JMS live chat room, certainly do that, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. If you're loving this episode, give it a thumbs up, it's a little thumbs up icon there, and leave a comment for us as well. We actually have the final trailer from the actual documentary that we're going to take a look at. Did you want to preface this a little bit?
Let's watch it, and then
we'll come back and have some chat.
Yeah.
Perfect. Here we go, folks. Enjoy.
When people ask me what am I most proud of, but I think the Dick Van Dyke Show would be, I was writing about what I knew about the home life of somebody who worked on television.
That show has meant a lot to me and to a lot of people. We knew we had something good. Nobody thought it would wind up being a classic like it is.
Everyone was a treasured week, working with the production people and the prop people, to say nothing of the actors. We were a real family.
That was a lucky break for me, being with such talented people. They were just great. It sounds kind of cliche to say we were like a happy family, but we really were.
The television viewing public has come to recognize that this is an exceptional group of talent.
It's still the finest, funniest 5 years of my life.
So well done to have all of them part of that.
Yeah. So and having published my newsletter for 20 years, I went back and poured through, 20 years worth of audio interviews and video interviews and things that I had done, so that I could pick and choose to bring some of those moments back. And besides photos and other things, right? It was a real revisit for me, as I would go back and listen to an interview that I did with Dick Van Dyke in 1996 and say, gosh, I forgot that we talked about that, or hear what we talked about with Mary Tyler Moore as she was preparing to do a particular show. So it was just great fun for me in putting these things back together. A lot of time and work, but very rewarding in terms of being able to revisit so many of those conversations, right? So the still that you show there, fans of the show recognize the titling that typically would be on an episode, right? So I went to great care to replicate the titling so that fans would say, oh yeah, right? As the title appears, it's just what somebody would expect to see the regular title of the episode.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and beautifully done too.
Yeah, then the closing of the trailer showed like a color shot of the writer's room, right? I think I might have sent you a still with me in there, Jim. I'm not. There we go. Right.
There's the actual shot first, and then you mysteriously pop it. Just to see that sort of like in color in that way is fantastic. So the writer's room where they worked.
Yeah. So let me tell you, that is a 3D model of the writer's room.
Yeah.
That I created.
You created that. Wow.
So I started with a blank canvas and decided I wanted to recreate this writer's room, right? So it was part of what kept me sane at the start of COVID.
Sure.
But many of the colors that you see there, I was able to, know what colors there were from the Rosemary color home footage, right? Many of the objects there in the room I recreated, but they're notable to folks, right? So again, the chess lamp is there on the side table next to the couch. Those photos we talked about are there on the wall. The dartboard, that Rob would throw the darts and miss it.
Yes.
The wall. You'll notice the darts are in the wall, not in the dartboard. The desk has the magic 8-ball on it.
Yeah.
Like they had, right? And many folks talk about the other thing to the right of the 8-ball, like the octagonal sort of shape thing. What is that?
Yes.
Well, that was actually like a desk caddy of the day, right? A little compartment for rubber bands, and the next one was for paper clips, and the next one was for change or whatever. So we built that. Folks might notice on the desk there's a color photo. Well, that's the photo of Danny Thomas as Kolak.
That's
When
right.
he stopped by to steal Rob's sense of humor and his thumbs, right? So this 3D model I used actually as a virtual set at the start of the documentary. So I'm standing in the office to introduce the documentary, and hopefully again it gives a little bit of taste to the fan about what it might have been like. And you can actually sort of with this model walk around virtually inside of the model, so you can stand behind the desk and look toward the couch to sort of get the point of view of what Rob would have seen when he was sitting there, or go out and stand in the hallway and look toward the audience, sort of thing.
That is so cool.
So a lot of fun, right? And here's the poster for the film. What a joy to be able to include archival footage of Sheldon Leonard, right? That unmistakable voice.
Right.
So Sheldon Leonard, I had written a letter to in the 90s and said, would you interview for my newsletter? And didn't hear anything. And one day the phone rang on a Saturday morning, and I was in the hallway and my wife was in the living room, and the phone rang once and stopped. And I looked at her and I said, what was that? She said, I don't know. And I looked out into the kitchen. There was my 5-year-old son holding the phone in his hand. He never answered the phone, right? And I said, well, I better get it, right? Who is it? So I took the phone away and said, hello. And this voice says, hello, David, this is Sheldon Leonard. Yeah, I know who it was. He says, do you still want to do an interview? I said, yes. He said, okay, next Saturday, 30 minutes. I'll call you then. That was it. And that was classic Sheldon, as I learned. Sheldon, at the time of the Van Dyke Show, was producing Van Dyke and the Andy Griffith Show and so many others on that Desilu Cahuenga lot. And they used to call him the Shadow. He would sort of slip in the back and sit behind the writer's table, and he'd listen and give his comments, and they would turn, and before you knew it, he was gone and he was on to the next show, right?
Yes.
Bill Persky, one of the writers, said, Sheldon used to come and sit behind me, and he said, I could always tell by Sheldon's breathing whether he liked what we were doing or not, because things, when he didn't like what we were doing, he said he was breathing that very deep. And he said, I would always know before everyone else that it was coming from Sheldon.
That it was.
Right? So,
that is funny. And so many iconic things too. The capri pants that Mary Tyler Moore sported for the very first time you ever saw her on television, and just a lot of other things that were revolutionary. And again, all being filmed in perpetuity and captured for all of our enjoyment at the Desilu studios of all places, right?
Right. So, one other thing that I want to make sure fans take note of in the documentary is the sort of the culmination of the documentary ends up being a tribute to Dick Van Dyke, in terms of a performance offered by Broadway star Gavin Lee. So for those folks who don't know who Gavin Lee is, Gavin Lee was Bert in the stage show of Mary Poppins, first starting in the West End in England. Then the show came to New York and was on Broadway. And then there was a touring company where he continued to play the role of Bert. And through the course of that time, met Dick Van Dyke and got to hear what Dick thought about his rendition of Bert, right? So as I put together the documentary, I thought, how can I offer a real tip of the hat to Dick? So I acquired the original Earle Hagen arrangements to a song that Dick had performed on the Dick Van Dyke Show. It was a birthday party episode for his son Richie, where Dick dressed up like a clown, and he sang a song that was called "When the Circus Comes to Town." So I, as I said, I managed to get the original Earle Hagen orchestration, and we recreated that. Well, in the midst of COVID, we did it virtually. So all the players of the instruments played separately and sent in their parts, and we mixed it back here in Albany. And then I thought, who could I get to perform that? And ba-bing, the light went on, and I thought, boy, wouldn't it be great if Gavin Lee would consider performing that song? So I reached out to him, and really without much hesitation, he said, yes, I would love to sing the song. Would you also like me to dance? And I said, well, why not, Gavin? If you're going to sing, why not dance as well? So so off the track went to Gavin Lee at his home, where he cleared out a room in the middle of the pandemic and sang and danced to When the Circus Comes to Town as a tribute to Dick, and also offer some very nice remarks to Dick in terms of appreciation for all that he's done. So folks need to make sure that they take a look and find that near the end of the documentary.
How fantastic was that to have something so special, David, as that as a part of the documentary, that extra bonus like that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, to get Earle Hagen's arrangements, recreate them, and then have a current day performer who has such an appreciation for Dick's talent to offer his sentiments and his tribute was just remarkable, right? Very special for me to sort of end it, or in close to the closing of the final documentary.
There's another great shot here too. Is this sort of the editing process here?
Exactly. Yeah, that's part of the editing of footage of Dick on another visit to the set of Diagnosis Murder. In between scenes, we chatted.
Isn't that incredible? That's just really, I mean, dealing in an iconic situation here in a beautiful way. I had mentioned that that movie Buttons. Tim Janis, my dear friend, had worked with Dick Van Dyke as well for Buttons. And Tim is a longtime friend of mine. I've interviewed him many times on PBS, on public television. And he just said working with Dick was nothing short of extraordinary, just absolute, and the dancing and just everything that he did, so open to whatever it took to get the project done, which I think is again just a testament to the kind of character that Dick Van Dyke has always had.
Yeah. So I mentioned visiting on the set of Diagnosis Murder, right? A scene would shoot, and they would say, okay, break, and Dick would start dancing, and and I think that sort of goes back to what we said earlier, right? What was the success of the show, right? The tone that was put in place on the set. I think Reiner did it, and Dick as well, during the Dick Van Dyke Show. But here again, Dick as the lead on Diagnosis Murder, and it being his show, sort of set the tone for how that set would operate. So I think it was a very relaxed set compared to many that other actors had been on, right? And even Diagnosis Murder was a joy for folks to go and
yes, and his son was in that as well, right?
Right, Barry. Yeah, and there were a couple of grandchildren and a son-in-law who would make occasional appearances. And Dick said, "I'm not ashamed at all of nepotism."
Now, for those who might not know the early part of the story of the germination of the idea of the Dick Van Dyke Show, wasn't it originally Men About the House or something to that effect with Carl Reiner as the lead? They tried it and it didn't necessarily. Sheldon said, "You're better off and let's find somebody else." And they went to Broadway, saw Bye Bye Birdie, saw Dick Van Dyke, said, "Here's our guy."
Yes. Yeah. Head of the Family was what Carl
Head of the Family. That's right.
And he was Rob Petrie in the original version, and it did not fare very well. And as you said, Sheldon Leonard said, "We'll get a better actor to play you."
Play you. Right.
And that was Dick Van Dyke, and the rest really is history. Yeah.
It's amazing. Yes. So they were seeing a Broadway show, Bye Bye Birdie, and they saw him, I guess, doing his thing. And they said, let's see, let's give him a shot and bring him in. And the rest, was is television gold.
One of let me just say, one of the perspectives offered, Christian Van Dyke, Dick's eldest son, comments in the documentary and shares what it was like to be part of a show business family before your dad is famous, right? So he talks about the fact that, his dad was doing everything he could to get work, and he and Barry would go and hang out in the wings at the theater, and, he said, we thought we knew something like he was going to the West Coast for a show, but he was doing that all the time, right?
Yes.
And before you know it, he was out and back, and he was going to do a show. And he said, in a matter of weeks, our lives changed, right? Then we couldn't go out without being recognized and noticed and interrupted and that sort of thing. So very, very interesting perspective of Christian to offer. And like I say, the documentary has Dick's son, it has Carl Reiner's son, Lucas, Rosemarie's daughter, Georgiana, Morey Amsterdam's son, Greg, Ann Guilbert's daughter, Nora Eckstein, Julie Paris and her brothers, Tony and Andy, the children of Jerry Paris.
Yes.
So
who worked on Happy Days and a lot of other shows too, as a
right?
director. And
so some very interesting perspectives from what I call the second generation of the Dick Van Dyke Show family.
That's incredible. It really, really is. And the actual anniversary was in 2021, but it's still being, it's the whole year. It's being celebrated. Where can people see the actual documentary itself?
The documentary is exclusively available on YouTube. And if you go out to YouTube and search Dick Van Dyke Show 60th, I'm sure it will pop up. Maybe we can get a link here in your listing that'll take folks to that. But Google is an amazing search engine, and if folks are really interested in finding it, they'll be able to locate it.
So is it under 60th anniversary or Dick Van Dyke Show or?
Yep, Dick Van Dyke Show 60th anniversary. Yep.
Dick Van Dyke Show 60th anniversary is what you look for, gang, and it'll come right up. And so has there been, as far as being broadcast on the networks and other places?
There has not been anything. There was some early discussion to see if there might be interest on a MeTV or a Decades or something like that. That has not.
Or even
terminated.
CBS would be great.
Yeah,
on the original network. Yeah,
some folks from CBS. There was some potential interest expressed in perhaps doing a story on CBS Sunday Morning, but they're quite backlogged from stories that have been sitting on the shelf because of COVID and other things, right? So but the reception has been overwhelmingly positive, and I think if you're any sort of a fan of the show, this gives you some real appreciation for it. This is not the typical let's show a few clips and scratch the surface. This is an hour and 35 minutes where we do quite a bit of a deep dive into things, and you get to hear some things that you've never heard before about the show, and unique props and memorabilia and things that are still out there and existing. And
what are some things you learned that you didn't even know along the way doing the research?
Well, it was interesting to learn about the fact that Danny Thomas had hired a masseuse to be on the Desilu Cahuenga lot. So if they were feeling a little stressed, you could go over to Abdul and get him a massage, right? And Sheldon Leonard, they had a steam room and whatever. What we didn't realize was that Abdul, could only massage so many hours a day. Abdul appeared in about 20 episodes as an extra. And if you watch closely over the course of the show, you'll say, there's Abdul again. And, he's a patron in the restaurant, or he's in the audience, or he's a jail convict or whatever, right? So that was sort of kind of fun. Larry Mathews shared a photo that he had of him and Abdul and Fred Blassie, who was on that Twizzle episode that we made reference to earlier tonight, right? And then the other thing was very unique on that studio property was Hal's Commissary, the cafe where sort of the luncheonette, which uniquely had two doors, one open to the public from the street and one on the other side open to the actors and crews of the shows, right? So folks from the street could go in and have lunch, and it was possible that they would see their favorite star having lunch, down on the other end of the commissary. They had sandwiches named after many of the leads. There was the Dick Van Dyke sandwich and the Andy Griffith sandwich and the Danny Thomas, and a particular copy of a menu that I have from the day also had John Astin and Marty Ingalls. There was Dickens and Fenster was one of the other shows being shot there at the time, right? So So little fun nuggets and pieces of trivia like that come to light.
That's incredible. I mean, yeah, when you're taking a deep dive like that, you get a chance to really learn so much more that you would not have learned. And here you're doing it, for purposes of entertaining and informing all of us. We have actually, this link here will bring people actually right to that episode or to that documentary. So there it is, gang. That actually brings you to the actual page on YouTube where you can watch it and you can enjoy it. So jot that down, folks, and enjoy. I've seen it multiple times. It is absolutely fantastic. It's spot on. It's so it really takes you back in time, and you learn a lot of different things too about one of the most iconic television shows in history on American television, and also being seen around the world too, right? Still to this day.
Yep.
Which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And so I would just say, make sure you watch to the very end. And I mean the very end, because there's a little surprise at the very end for the loving fan of the show.
Yes, exactly. And they're already clicking on and finding it, which is great too. Excellent. We love that. It takes a village, folks. That's right. We're all supporting each other here on the Jim Masters Show live, and we love that. There's something in my research, digging up a little bit here, we found with Dick Van Dyke. I don't know if you ever saw this. It's very, very cool. I discovered this a while ago, and it's a public service announcement. When you used to see actually a lot of those on TV, PSAs, sometimes they would use them as filler when they didn't have enough commercials, or just they wanted to serve the greater good of the public. They used to have editorial replies, the TV stations, and then they had the public service announcements. I used to be actually public service director for a TV station in New York at one time, and I dug out of the archives and found this one. It's a short one with Dick Van Dyke, and I thought you'd get a kick out of this and appreciate this. It involves cookies, but it's actually a really important message for kids. Here's Dick Van Dyke and a PSA that goes back to, I'd say, late 70s, early 80s.
Now, there's something really dangerous. Cookies over the stove. You know why? Not because they're fattening. Now, come on, I'm moving. Guess why? It's because they could lure your child over the burners, and his clothes could catch fire. Your child, or brother or sister, on fire. You don't want that to happen. And it won't either, if you just move your cookies.
Learn not to burn. Yeah, Dick did several.
Remember those?
Yeah, Dick did several different versions. I think he had a stop, drop, and roll version too.
Yes,
which was
right.
For him, like tripping over the ottoman was very appropriate. Right.
Now, was that planned, or did that just happen? I forgot what the outcome of that story was.
John Rich, who was the director at the time, they were getting ready to finish shooting one night, and they said, we don't have an opening. And Carl said, what are we going to do? And John said, well, I don't know. Let's have Dick come in the front door or whatever, and maybe he can, trip over the ottoman or whatever, right? So, indeed, he came in, and Dick, being Mr. Plastic or Mr. Rubber, right? Have you ever seen limbs like that? I don't know. Even at 96, he's amazing.
Still incredible, isn't he?
Over the ottoman he went, and they, took the take. And then I think it was John Rich who said, let's do a second one, but this time don't go over the ottoman, right? And turns out, years later, what they found out was folks were watching the show and placing wagers on whether during the opening he was going to trip over the ottoman or he was going to sidestep the ottoman. And the actual decision was up to the film editor, who got to pick whichever version they wanted to do in that particular week's episode. But it was only years later that they came to find out that betting was going on behind the scenes about what the opening might be. So,
and there, of course, is that other version where he just sort of sidesteps it. He doesn't, like you say, do the trip. And then there was that very first episode where it starts with the sprinkling of photos on the desk. And I was just seeing that on Tubi, and I forgot about that version, and that was a great version too.
Yeah, the version of the theme there actually has bongo drums in it, which
Yes.
Earle Hagen comments in archival footage that he has no recollection whatsoever of ever writing something for bongos because he hated bongos. But, he said then somebody, played me the version, and he said, well, I guess I use bongos, right? He quickly wrote a big band version, which became the favorite of what we all know and love today. So.
That's the thing we've talked about here on this series when we've had guests coming in from television and Hollywood and even from music, talking about how we are sort of missing that. We're missing those TV themes, those hummable themes that we knew. Also jingles and commercials, jingles on TV network promos and station promos of the singers and the themes, that all these iconic TV series, we would be able to instill today, hum the theme, and you'd be able to spout out the name of the series from the theme. Today, oftentimes, there's very limited time reserved for the credit roll at the end, for the dramatic or fun opening in the beginning. So you're not really hearing a theme that you could stick with or remember. You're just hearing maybe like a bing bing and that's it, or something, and the show starts, or just goes right into a scene, and then they just show the graphic title, and that's it. Where before, the buildup of the you were getting built up. People don't have the I now sometimes you go on certain channels and it has actually, we can skip the intro. I like, even with this show, I know they say sometimes on YouTube, just go right in, don't even do an intro, just go right in and start talking. That's okay, but I still like a build up and a little bit of an intro. Hey, you're watching the Jim Masters show. Yes. Hey, we've got this cool intro.
Yes, I like your opening is great, and I think it sets the tone, right?
It's a tone setting thing, right? That we're missing from a lot of things these days. And I think setting a tone sort of leads people in to get an idea of what they're going to expect or feel in a way. And there's surprises and everything else, of course. But I think you want to create I'm very big with setting a tone and a feeling and an environment. And I think that was always something that was not even discussed. It was an automatic, at least we were trained that way. It was an automatic to create that. And these themes really were big with that. You don't see that so much anymore, huh? Sort of a dying art. Hope it comes back.
I think it's subject to this. A sitcom now is probably 20 minutes to fit in all the commercials, where back in the day of the Van Dyke Show, it was a 26-minute show, or almost 27-minute episode sometimes, right? So it's the nature of the business today, for good or for bad, I think. I'll share this one observation. So a television writer named Peter Tolan. Peter's well known for Rescue Me with Dennis Leary and many other projects. Peter, a huge fan of Carl Reiner and the Dick Van Dyke Show. And we were chatting about the show's legacy. And he said, the way I look at it is, technically the Dick Van Dyke Show was 5 seasons, 158 episodes. But he said, in terms of today's thinking, right, the show really was 7 or 8 years for a couple of reasons. First of all, they did 30 some episodes a year, where now you're lucky to get 10 or 12 or 13, right? And the episodes were 26 minutes long, right? So if you compare content and material, it's as if the show really had a life of 7 or 8 years, not just the 5 that we're so accustomed to. But
yes,
but aren't we lucky that the show is available on Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray transfers are just impeccable and exquisite.
Are they?
And that's attributable to Reiner being smart enough, as one of the owners of the show. So the show, owned by Carl and Dick and Sheldon and Danny Thomas, was, when they created an episode, they created 2 prints, and one print was the one that would go to the network to air, and the second print went into a temperature controlled vault, and was in there.
That's right.
Temperature controlled for 50 years or 40 years until they pulled them out and then they did the digital transfer. So the Blu-ray transfers are just amazingly clear. You could see things there now that no one ever thought you would ever be able to see. And it's sort of fun to see, stuff that doesn't make sense, like, Dick gets tickets. He's trying to get tickets to a show for the PTA. You can actually look in and see that the ticket says the Danny Thomas Show, right?
Right.
In the 1960s television, you were lucky to see the picture, more or less what the ticket said, right?
Right, exactly.
But now with these Blu-ray transfers and the ability to freeze frame and sort of zoom in and still have some
You could
clarity,
see sort of the
it's amazing stuff. Yeah,
imperfections and things of that nature. And if you look at some of the shows of that time too, they would black out the brand name label. You'd never see the detergent or the dish liquid or the cookies. It'd always be, or sometimes they would just block out certain letters where
the cereal box, right?
You wouldn't see Tide, you'd see Ide or something. And then I think it was around Seinfeld time when product placement started to become, and Seinfeld's kitchen was loaded with all of the brand names in his cabinets, with the cabinets open, his refrigerator. And they realized, hey, there's some money to be made with product placement. But before, everything was always Acme. It was an Acme product or what have you, which is cool. I guess part of the sort of the charm of it all.
Right.
So this really has been for you, David, a true labor of love on so many levels. I bet you felt in a way that you were kind of like a kid in a candy store when you were putting this together.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And I think, I sort of came to a realization back in 2004 when Reiner invited me to the set to help work on the reunion show. Right. Sort of while I was there and in the midst of, there was no audience. It was just cast and crew and being shot. It all of a sudden hit me there, I think, that, wait a minute, I'm not an outsider anymore. I'm sort of part of the Dick Van Dyke Show family, right? Reiner invited me to come. I'm contributing to the special. So as I produced this documentary, I sort of had that in the back of my mind as well. And in fact, one of the very nice pieces of feedback that I received from Bill Persky, one of the producers and writers on the show, is he said, I've watched the documentary several times now, and it has just brought back wonderful memories. If I've never said it before, I want you to know that, I consider you part of the Dick Van Dyke Show family. And that to me is the reward in all of this, right?
What a reward that is too, huh?
And I'm still friends. I'm the age for the most part of the children of the cast. I'm talked to Larry Mathews, Richie the other day, and we catch up every once in a while. I'll exchange emails with the Paris kids, with Ann Guilbert's daughter. We'll exchange things on Facebook, and the other wonderful thing is these folks made their archives so readily available to me. Photos, scripts, the Paris, Tony Paris had his dad's clapboard, right? And I said, Tony, I'd like to recreate that for the documentary. So he measured the pieces of the clapboard so we could be as realistic as possible to recreate it. Pat Rich sent me John Rich's bound volumes. The Paris family sent me photo books that are irreplaceable, right?
Wow.
But to know that they trusted that I would use them with care and get them back to them, right, is just, again, part of what makes it all worthwhile as a true fan of the show. Never did I think when I started a publication in 1995 that it would advance and become what it had turned to over these, now 25, 30 years. So
tell us again about Walnut Times for those who aren't familiar with that and the inspiration for that. It was a great idea.
Yeah. So I was watching the show as it came back on Nickelodeon in the early 90s.
Oh, yes.
Right? Sort of had a resurgence. And I thought, I wonder if there's a fan club for the show, and did some digging, and there wasn't. And I thought, I wonder if I could start a publication. So Viacom was the distributor at the time, and I contacted them, and they said, absolutely no way. You cannot do a Dick Van Dyke fan club. We own the licensing rights to that at this point in time. So a lady who was the head of the National Association of Fan Clubs said, well, you have your First Amendment right to write about anything. So start a newsletter about the show. And she said, I don't know, call it Life in New Rochelle. People will relate to that. And I thought, that's good, but I like that Walnut episode, right?
Yeah.
So I said, I think fans of the show will know where I'm going. So I started the publication in 1995, sent it to all the cast. Rose Marie was my first interview. And the immediate feedback was just overwhelmingly positive from the cast. Dick loved it. Carl loved it. Rose Marie gave me Morey's number so I could interview Morey. And, it sort of snowballed. So for 20 years, the publication would have an interview with a main cast member. It would highlight a guest star who was on the show. We'd have a section of where you could get merchandise from the show. I'd have a little from the editor sort of feedback column. And what was currently happening was one of the cast going to be on a current day show that you should watch for. So through those newsletters and constant contact, I established the friendships and the relationships with the cast and many of the guest stars, and they're still relevant today. And that's how so many participated with me in giving their feedback and comments of being on the show. Jamie Farr from MASH.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Hell from Love Boat. Chad and Jeremy Clyde of Chad and Jeremy fame. They were
sure, yeah.
Right. Jeremy contributed, and
they all love the series. Yeah.
Sylvia Lewis, John, very well-known dancer in her day. And Michael Forrest, probably most well-known for being in a role on Star Trek, but he was in a great part on the Van Dyke Show as Father Joe Coogan. So all of these folks warmly welcomed the opportunity to revisit. And it was amazing to me that with such clarity, they could remember what that experience was like. But I think it's because it was such an indelible experience in their individual careers. So
yeah, it really stuck with them in a deep way, huh?
Yeah. So the Walnut Times, I still have a website that lists the issues, and back issues are available if folks are interested, right? I don't plug my stuff enough, I guess, Jim. I don't know, but I also wrote a book that tells of my experiences, sort of like we shared here. How did I start the newsletter? To Twilo and Beyond, it's called. That's out on Amazon.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you like walnuts?
I do, but I've learned that you can't eat too many of them at once. Do you know why?
No.
They tend to bind you up.
Somehow I knew that was
as experienced by the cast of the Van Dyke Show on that episode. They cracked walnuts and ate them all week, and by the end of the week, they were all in desperate straits.
And how apropos, because when you are delivering the newspapers and probably delivering the Walnut Times at one time, you had to sort of bind and bound the papers. So it sort of all ties together.
Yeah. So another interesting fact is when they were done with that episode, they had a deal with, I believe it was the Diamond Walnut Company, one of the biggest producers of walnuts,
the biggie,
right?
Sure.
To send back any walnuts that were still salvageable after the 15 or 18.
They wanted them back.
Came out of the closet. Apparently they went back in the Los Angeles supermarket. So people actually probably were buying the walnuts that had come out of the closet.
In fact, right now probably would sell on eBay for if they knew that it was part of that iconic series. That is amazing. Do you see yourself doing more celebrations of other iconic series, or was it just this particular one that was near and dear to your heart? Is this something that you enjoy doing and want to do even more?
My passion really is limited to the Van Dyke Show in terms of the depth of this, right? So I enjoy certainly other sitcoms of the day. I Love Lucy is classic. I always enjoyed That Girl, and
Yeah,
in the Andy Griffith Show, I'll stop on an episode and watch. But I think part of that is, Andy Griffith was one stage away from the Dick Van Dyke Show at the
That's
same
right.
time, right? So character actors were on different shows. Hagen wrote the theme for both. Sheldon Leonard was was the exec producer on both. The one place I haven't had a chance to visit that I would like to is what remains of those Desilu Cahuenga studios, which is now Red Studios in Hollywood. I think just to walk around the lot and feel the essence of what happened there, right?
Yes.
Lucy had been filmed on the same soundstage that Van Dyke took over. In later years, Seinfeld was filmed on the same soundstage as the Van Dyke Show.
Mm-hmm.
And in more recent years, the Paul Reiser, Helen Hunt,
Mad About You
reboot,
reboot
was done at the now, the then Desilu Cahuenga Studios, Red Studios. Is
that now Paramount?
What's that?
Is it Paramount now?
No, it's Red, I think. Red
It's
Studios.
Red now. Red.
Yeah. But
wow.
But my associate Peter Tolan produced the reboot of Mad About You, and as I said, he didn't realize when they scheduled the space to do the shoot that it was Van Dyke's stage, right? He said during breaks he would wander around the back walls, seeing if he could find anything on the walls that were evidence of the Van Dyke Show from 55, 60 years ago.
Wow.
Never found anything, but he said it was just sort of a unique experience to be in that space, knowing what had transpired there so many years before.
Oh, absolutely. And who would have really enjoyed probably being on an episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show? Mr. George Burns.
Yeah.
I think Georgie is here. He always pops in on the broadcast with a cigar and his red hanky. And he said he thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, brought back so many memories for him, and thoroughly loved it. He said, "You knocked it out of the park, kiddo." He always appears on our broadcasts.
Gotcha.
And he thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, it's been my pleasure to share my passion with you and all of your viewers. And I'm very, very appreciative to have another venue to try to let people know about the project. And as I said, hopefully go out and enjoy it and consider a donation to St. Jude.
Yes.
And continue our tribute to, what I think, if it's not the best, certainly one of the best sitcoms in our television history. So.
And thanks for being such a fan of the Jim Masters Show series, Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series, where we're sort of bringing back the lost art of conversation in the style of the Dick Cavetts, the Johnny Carsons, the Regis, the Mervs, the Mikes,
right.
But with a modern vibe, modern twist of today. Not really even like an interview, but more like a real conversation.
I like
it. I appreciate your, sharing the word about our series and wanting to come on. And somebody else also appreciated it. Gilligan appreciates it too.
Well, Bob Denver. Look at that bobblehead. Buddy.
That's that came from his wife, Dream of Denver. Fabulous.
Nice.
Yeah, she was with us 3 times. She's become a dear friend. She's absolutely amazing and just a wonderful, wonderful person. And so this really true, again, has been a labor of love for you and all of these experiences that you have had that you look back at. What would be the blessing and joys through all of this for you, David, that you look at that stick with you today in this whole Dick Van Dyke Show experience that maybe as a kid you would have ever dreamed that you would be partaking in and helping to create and facilitate?
Right. I think what I appreciate the most is the fact that what started out as a fan's passion evolved into friendships with these cast members, these very down-to-earth cast members. And, you can reflect back on the conversations that you had and the time that you were fortunate enough to spend with them. And as I said to you, I look at the photos as you flash them here on the screen, right? And each one brings back a memory of that event or that time that we had an opportunity to get together. And that is something that can never be taken from you. Like I mentioned earlier, right? It's part of your being now and part of your fabric.
Yes.
Rosie was just great.
Like you say, a real firecracker. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and people, they're so iconic in terms of being identified with these shows that you almost forget that each of them, including Morey Amsterdam and Richard Deacon and all of them, had careers before the Dick Van Dyke Show on stage, other TV shows as well, and things of that nature, and commercials, and being on game shows and talk show panels and a lot of other things prior. But then you get that one major thing that resonates with people and sticks with people, and that's the main thing you're identified with. Some people say, oh, I don't want to be always just identified in that role with that character.
Right.
But there are then those who embrace that and really understand the beauty of it and the importance of it and the emotional connection that people invest in and make with these characters and shows like the Dick Van Dyke Show, right? And they appreciate it and they relish in being called, you know, Rob, Petrie, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing, huh?
It is. And, you know, you say New Rochelle, and most people are going to say, oh, that's where Rob and Laura Petrie lived, right? It's part of the fabric there down in the city.
It really, really is. When's the last time you were there in New Rochelle, New York?
I was there in late September, early October, as I said, to shoot that promo for the final release. Yeah. So
we have one very important question that comes in from Gary in Iowa. What does a 60-year-old walnut taste like?
Gary, after you try that, you let us know.
Yeah, you check it out there in Iowa, my friend, in the breadbasket of the country, and then report back to us. I'll get the information to David, and he'll share it with the world. This was absolutely epic, my friend. Thanks for spending all this time with us. Best of luck with the project. Again, folks can see it right there on YouTube, which is a very cool thing. You don't have to subscribe to anything as far as like, memberships and all that. But if you do a donation to St. Jude's, David would be very happy. I would too, because it's such a beautiful, beautiful. And of course, if you want to subscribe to the channel, do so. And of course, subscribe to our channel, Jim Masters TV, and it's all takes a village. So check it out. You're going to absolutely love it. It's really, really something quite special. And again, you really nailed it, David. And we really appreciate your hopping on the show and spending all of this time with us. And all
Jim,
of the
a pleasure to meet you virtually, and thank you for having me. It's been a fun, very fun hour plus talking with you.
And I hope we get a chance to break bread in person. That would be a real pleasure. Spread the word about our show, and I hope the show met whatever expectation you had, and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I certainly have with you, David.
It certainly did. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Best of luck with everything. Continued success with the documentary, and we'll stay in touch. We'll keep the porch light on for you. Okay, my friend?
Excellent. Thank you. Be well.
You too. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Fade to black with the theme. Da, 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 da. Take care, David.
Bye-bye.
All right. David Van Deusen here on the show, live from New York, the greater Albany area, the capital of the state of New York. And really exciting. You got a chance to learn a little bit more, maybe about one of your favorite television shows of all time, one that really has stood the test of time with an iconic cast, brilliant writers, great sets. We talked about the living room, the kitchen, and all the other wonderful things that involved the office, of course, as well. The theme song, just all of it. And if you're discovering this for the first time, maybe you've always heard about the Dick Van Dyke Show, and maybe you never even saw it. Check it out. You'll see it in reruns on a lot of different networks. It's also on Tubi and Decades and others. Clips on YouTube and so much more. It really is absolutely spectacular. And we thank David Van Deusen, the executive producer of that wonderful celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Dick Van Dyke Show as well. And we have a mutual friend too, who is Doug Denoff, who also was a guest on our show. You may remember he's a wonderful Broadway producer. And his dad, Sam Denoff, was one of the head writers on the Dick Van Dyke Show as well, which is really, really cool. Matter of fact, I want to bring David back in just quick because I wanted to mention that. That's another thing too. The Sam Denoff connection and our mutual friend Doug Denoff as well, right?
Yeah, so you're right. Sam was a writer. I talked about the song that Gavin Lee sang, When a Circus Comes to Town. Sam and another man wrote that song. Actually, Sam was not only a script writer, but a musician. So he wrote that song. And Sam and his writing partner, Bill Persky, were certainly integral parts of the show in its later years to relieve Carl Reiner of the burden of writing all the episodes. And they also became producers in later time. So
that's right.
Yeah. And Doug, the keeper of the archives and the artifacts, Doug has in his personal collection some props, some paintings that were items used on the show that were going to go into the trash bin, and Sam had the sense to pull them out. And Doug has a couple of paintings and a Bupkis record that was a prop used on the show, and some other things. So again, all these sorts of things are highlighted in depth in the documentary. So people have to go dig in and find out all about these other little pieces of trivia.
That's really, really cool. Again, Doug Denoff, a fantastic friend, and he was a guest on the show as well. And we sprinkled in conversation about the Dick Van Dyke Show as well. Charlene Lee, thank you very much for the super sticker and support of the Jim Masters Show series in this episode. Charlene Lee, we thank you for doing that as well. That's so beautiful of you. Yeah, I wanted to make sure we got the Sam, the Doug story in there as well, knowing the Doug as much as we do. So a great guy.
Doug actually is in my documentary commenting about being a kid going to the set with his dad. It's great, remembrances and recollections of what it was like in the time.
To be there on set, absolutely. Job well done again, David. Thanks once again. This was what we call an encore, surprise encore. See, we had rehearsed that he was going to come in again, right? This is the bonus footage.
So then I'll leave you with one final thought, which is to keep your sense of humor, right? And your thumbs up.
That's right. Thumbs up, exactly. Thanks, David. It was a pleasure. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Bye.
Cheers now. A little bonus footage, of course, a little encore we like to do here on the Jim Masters Show. Yes, Sam Denoff, great musician, writer, and so much more. And we have a mutual friend in Doug Denoff. If you didn't see the episode where Douglas Denoff was on the show, check it out. It was really, really, really fantastic. We really appreciate it. So good stuff. And you guys seem to really enjoy yourself. I see lots of great comments here coming in from literally all around the world. We've heard from Ireland and Australia. I see we've heard from Japan, of course, all across the United States and Canada. We've heard from Italy and Germany. That's fantastic as well. Hawaii. Very nice. Really, really cool. You guys are terrific. Saying hello to each other as well in our JMS live chat room there. If you didn't get a chance to chat while the show was live, don't worry about it. You can leave a comment for us right here on our YouTube channel. And we absolutely love that. I want to let you know, very special show tomorrow as well. You know who's with us tomorrow? We have Patty Davis, brilliant author and daughter of President Ronald Reagan, is joining us here. Yes, we've got an amazing and beautiful episode with Patty joining us tomorrow. That is a Saturday edition of the Jim Masters Show. I got a busy day tomorrow. I've got a television news shoot I have to do in the morning in the TV studio. Then I'm going to rush back here to the Jim Masters Show. We're going to welcome Patty Davis live from Los Angeles, California. And she's a prolific author, a journalist as well, and speaker. She's just really spectacular. Patty Davis, author, journalist, writer, and daughter of President Ronald Reagan, has joined us here on the Jim Masters Show, 3 p.m. Eastern. So it's an afternoon episode, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, here on the Jim Masters Show live. That's on Saturday. That's tomorrow for those watching live. Of course, Sunday at the time of this show happens to be Mother's Day. So we're going to be with our mom and our family on Mother's Day. We will be in New York celebrating the holiday. But I want to let you know on Monday, look who is here on Monday. The one and only Michael Lernard, brilliant actress, so many incredible shows and movies and so much more. Of course, Nurse, she was in Nurse on CBS, but most notably, she played Olivia Walton, the mother on The Waltons. That's right. This is very exciting. On Monday, don't miss this episode. Michael Lernard is going to be here live. Again, Olivia Walton on The Waltons. She was a nurse and just epic individual, brilliant actress. And she's in a lot of new projects as well that we're going to be letting you know about too. So join us on Monday. Michael Lernard is going to be here. For those of you who love television, you're going to love that episode as well. So again, Patty Davis joins us tomorrow. Monday, Michael Lernard is going to be here. Patty, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Michael Lernard, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. And one more time, we thank our special friend and terrific, incredible producer of the celebration of the 60th anniversary of the Dick Van Dyke Show, David Van Deusen, joining us here, gracing us with his presence and his wit and wisdom and all these cool things. If you missed the videos we showed, the trailer and everything else, check those out here on the Jim Masters Show. Again, or if you're tuning in late, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. That's where we house over 660 episodes at the time of this episode. And don't forget to click that red bar that you saw there, that red button. And also, you know, there's a notification bell, little bell icon there. Click that, and you know what happens? You'll get alerts and notifications about every episode we have coming up. For those of you especially who like to be here when we are live, which is really important because I know you like to interact with everybody as well. You can also binge watch our episodes. There are 660. Sometimes it takes television series 8-9 years to get to 500 episodes. We've done 660 in just a 2-year period as we are celebrating our 2-year anniversary of epic daily shows, entertainment, lifestyle, variety talk show series, the Jim Masters Show live series. For all of you watching around the world, we thank you for all that you do to support, to share the links, to chat with us on our Instagram page, our Twitter page, Facebook, all at Jim Masters TV. And I want to remind you too, we are going to Bermuda with our Jim Masters Show Levity Cruise coming up in May of 2023. And we're very excited about that. You guys have asked us to put together for some time now a really special cruise with us, our crew, and many others, special guests, surprises, and lots more. And we are headed from New York and Virginia Beach to Bermuda in May of next year. About a year from now, and all the information is available for you. Just inquire within. You can see it on our the Jim Masters Show Levity Hall Facebook page, and there's links you can click, learn more. You can talk to our official travel agency, Quinn Panzer Travel, here in the United States. They put it all together. We're very excited about it, and it's going to be spectacular. So good stuff. All right, we are going to take off. Thanks for being with us on this episode of the Jim Masters Show, where we're bringing light, love, levity, and our famous JMS levity to all of you right here. Don't forget to be good to one another, take care of one another, and share the links, share the levity. We do not say goodbye here at the Jim Masters Show. We say Morey Loop, Slancha, cheers. We say Auf Wiedersehen, hasta la vista, shalom, sayonara, ciao, and take care and be well. We'll see you on the next episode, gang. Thanks for being with us on this episode of the Jim Masters Show. Now, we talked about theme songs, right? And we love theme songs with these shows. We have our theme song as well that opens our show and closes our show, and we know you guys enjoy it. So here it comes in 3, 2, 1. Cheers, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Jim Masters Show. Take care.